If someone were to ask you, how do you get further faster? Most people would answer something along the lines of visualizing or intending a specific outcome, focusing and going into massive action. This is the kind of stuff you'd hear from personal development gurus. And yes, these things can in fact be helpful. But there's a twist that you're not going to hear from all those well-known coaches. And without it, you're stuck trying to force growth in the old paradigm, chest-thumping way. They're never going to tell you that often it's in the times of rest and recovery between all of that action that the most inner growth, clarity, inspiration for new and better ideas, not to mention exponential spiritual growth, can happen. It's kind of like weight building, where you take the muscle to failure. It's not the exhausting of the muscle where the muscle grows. It's actually in the recovery period where the growth occurs. So without the necessary pause between the periods of physical action, you're not maximizing your potential. It's the same with spiritual growth. In this episode, we're talking about the importance of self-care and 9 simple and powerful self-care tips and practices that are not practitioner dependent, meaning you can do them on your own, to help you feel grounded, centered, and in alignment for maximum spiritual growth. Things like acupuncture, chiropractic, and massage can also be incredibly helpful for self-care, but we're focused on things you can do right now, yourself, that don't require external support. And after the discussion, we get to the most important part. The group frequency calibration associated with this episode is where the frequency work happens and where change actually occurs. So be sure to listen to that. Without releasing distortion patterns targeted by the GFC, the change you want will be more difficult to attain because you haven't addressed the root of the issue. If you like this episode, please help us out by hitting the like button so our content can find its way to more people just like you. And please subscribe to receive our latest content. This also helps us increase our reach so we can help and support more people. My name is Karen Chong, and today in Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, we're discussing 9 unexpectedly powerful self-care tips.
Self-care, there's a lot of meanings for it.
Yeah.
And they all have different gradations of what self-care is.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, why do you care? Isn't frequency work enough?
Yeah. The reason you care about self-care is because you have a physical body. And so frequency work is great because it's so accelerating and everything happens on spirit level first and the physical reorganizes around it.
Wait, okay.
It's too fast, right?
No, it's not too fast.
Okay.
It's just say that again, because I'm sure there might be people watching saying, wait, what? No.
Yeah.
I've done yoga, I've sat with gurus, I've done silent meditations.
Yeah.
You've just said it the opposite way to
Yes.
what they've told me. So say that again.
So everything happens at spirit level first, which is a higher level of vibration. The slower, denser level of vibration, the physical, always follows what happens at the higher level vibration order after.
So this is why you are doing frequency work.
Yes.
Because what you do is at the level before the iteration of the physical.
That's right.
Okay, so
So-
now you're saying that that's why self-care is important.
Yes.
Because we have to have this physical vehicle that can hold these frequencies.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And can shift. The more in alignment you keep your physical body, the faster the changes will be in your life. In terms of what it feels like to you, what it looks like to you, how people are in your life, the relationships you have, the synchronicities you experience. So because you are also a physical body, you need to stay in alignment in the physical as much as possible to be able to have the most transformation on the physical to mirror what's happening on the spirit.
Okay, I'm going to have to get that again.
Okay.
So we want the physical to be in alignment with the frequency.
Yes.
Right. And when we have that, you're saying that the outward manifestation of our life
Yep.
will reflect that inward alignment of the higher frequencies.
Exactly.
And that's kind of like creation manifestation then.
Yes. Yes. It makes manifestation really fast. It makes change happen in a way that is in alignment with a very different vibrational order than probably what you've been experiencing. So that's when, for example, people say to me, whoa, that change happened overnight. So for example, I have a client who came to see me for a session. Well, she called, because it's over the phone.
Yeah.
So she called in, we had the session, and then the next day she writes into customer service. I don't know what happened, but something totally shifted in my life. My mother called me, who is somebody that I've had challenging relationship with because she's very critical of me and she's very critical of my partner. Now the client is a white woman, and she said, my partner is African American. So all of a sudden now, this woman, who's her mother, was very different towards her daughter in a single conversation. So all of a sudden, the mom is supportive and saying, like, you've done such a good job. I'm so proud of you. I wouldn't have had the same courage that you did to have this change that you're having in your life. It's really amazing. And I can't believe that your partner is such an incredible guy for you. You know, he really supports you in ways that others haven't, and so on. He was very, very like laudatory towards her and her partner. Totally different person. So my point is, when you shift, so much can shift around you that you're not even aware of. But the more that your physical body is lagging, meaning it's not in alignment, it's not functioning optimally, the harder it is for you to integrate that shift in frequencies that happens in frequency work that can allow for all of this nonlinear magic, change, opportunity, whatever you want to call it, to happen.
Okay, so this is why we do have to really care about self-care.
Yes.
And when we're talking about self-care today, we're talking about are we talking about just the physical body, or are we talking about emotional as well?
Yeah. So to me, self-care is when you can come into alignment in your body in the present moment of time.
Okay.
So what are practices that help you not only feel better in your body, but also help to have you be present in this moment in time, not distracted, not focused on something else, but just here in this present moment, and can help you feel better in yourself.
Okay.
That's what I mean by self-care.
Okay. So what are some of those things then that you would recommend if you were saying to somebody brand new, okay, this frequency work is powerful, it's life-changing, it's life-transforming. We want your body to be able to pace with this. What would you suggest?
So the first thing is something that people forget all the time, which is water. So to drink water and to immerse yourself in water. So people are like, yeah, I know all about hydration. So yeah, hydration is important. Okay, so that's great, but I'm going to talk about it from frequency level. So water is crystalline in structure, and there's something about water which is really amazing. Now, don't forget, most of your body is water. So when you are drinking water, you're helping your body to transmute and to pace with the frequency change that you are experiencing through frequency work. Okay, and so it's an important thing to do. If you can immerse yourself in water, like an ocean or a lake or a stream or a river or hot springs, worst case scenario, like your tub, because you don't have anything else.
Yeah.
Great. Put yourself into water. And that will also, because it's around you, and if you're drinking more water, it helps to release the distortion patterns that you have more quickly.
Okay. And releasing the distortion patterns is about actually taking in a higher level of frequency.
Yeah. And so just thanks for asking that. So a distortion pattern, for those of you who are new and don't know, is essentially a pattern or a block that happens at the conscious or the unconscious level, at frequency level, that keeps you spinning in that same place, playing out the same patterns over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So for example, you might find that you're challenged with low self-worth, for example, and it doesn't matter how much coaching you do around it, how much journaling you do, how much, you write in your gratitude journal, how much affirmation you say, you can't feel better about yourself. To me, this is a distortion pattern at the level of frequency. And once you can release that pattern at the level of frequency, you start to feel better about yourself. And it's kind of it sounds like it's magic. It kind of is in some way. It's just simply that we're reaching a level that we can start to work at this level of consciousness, which we haven't been able to before.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to immerse ourselves in water, either by drinking it, swimming in it, soaking in it, because that helps us to release.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there's a sensual aspect to water, which can help you bring you into the present moment of linear time. So you're just present. So just imagine, like, I went to the hot springs here where we live in San Miguel, like about a week ago. And it so happened that I was waiting for friends. And so I was in the water longer than I expected to be. And what was amazing was, even though the past couple of days, or maybe the days before it, I had been feeling a little crunchy. You know, I was just like, oh, I don't know. It's like time is like going too fast for me. Or I was having, you know, it was just like a time that was harder. When I sat in the water for that length of time, which was a couple of hours, when I came out, even though I was super wrinkly, there was something about that sensuality in the water, just being present, not being rushed, just allowing myself to be in that water. I felt like more centered, more present in myself, better.
Yeah, I would agree with that one.
Yeah.
I love being in water.
Me too. I love it too.
Okay, so we have that would be your number one.
Number one.
And what else would you offer up as tips or suggestions?
Yeah. Watch how much sugar you're eating. And I would say, don't eat it as much as you can. So just, a lot of people will say, well, what do you mean by sugar, Karen? Do you just mean processed sugar, or do you mean all kinds of sugar? I mean all kinds of sugar. And I know for some people, they're like, I can't do that. It's okay. If you can't do that, just cut out the processed sugar. Meaning, you know, all of those processed foods, all the takeout meals, almost in every single restaurant food item, there is sugar.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. It's either in the form of sugar or corn syrup or some derivative of that. And it's in a lot of prepared foods. And like I said, takeout meals. And we don't realize how much we're consuming of it. And our bodies were not meant to process this level of sugar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why do we care about sugar?
So, yeah. So, you know, way back before we had all this sugar in our diet, it was so easily and readily available to us. Sugar was harder to get. So, you know, like humans would eat something like fruit or that type of thing, or they'd find honey, or, you know, if you were a Native American in North America, possibly maple syrup. But my point is, it's usually plant derived.
Yeah.
And it's harder to find, and you're not just eating gobs and gobs of sugar. You tend to be eating other things, you see, that have fiber in it to slow down the absorption of sugar. Now, sugar, they have discovered, is the cause of all kinds of things. So if you want a resource who's a professional, I would suggest Dr. Mark Hyman, because he's done a tremendous amount of research on the effect of sugar on not only how you feel, but on things like that you wouldn't even like think about, like your hormones, like how much sex drive you have, how much forget about the weight gain, right? Yeah. We're talking about how you age, inflammation, the cause of this in terms of on diseases that are common, you know? Yeah. And so it's really a prevalent thing in our culture to have so much sugar, and our bodies really were not meant to process this level of it.
No, and he's a brilliant resource.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had his own experience and journey with that.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
He's a completely reliable source. He also talks about, because I think coming back to frequency work and why we care so much about what we eat, let's just say sugar being the main thing, is that to do the frequency work, I've often found if I've had a meal that's had a lot of sugar, to sit and be present in my body is really hard. It's
very
like
hard.
Somebody's put my finger in a socket,
Yeah.
and I'm jumping like this, like trying to be still and find my zero.
Yeah.
What? You know?
Yeah. And sugar will actually push you forward in time. I know for those of you who are new, you're like, what does that mean and who cares? You know that jitteriness that you feel where you're like, right, and you can get the same kind of stimulant from like caffeine. A lot of people don't even recognize how much sugar they've eaten, so they don't even know. If you take yourself off sugar for a little bit and eat a little bit of it, you will see that you start to like get jittery, and it's almost like you can't sit still.
Yeah.
It's like you want to jump forward, and that is actually a time function. So for like sugar and caffeine will push you ahead in time, which can make you feel like you're always chasing time, like you're always behind, like you can't sit still, you can't sit centered in the present moment of time. It's because you're being pushed forward.
Yeah.
So.
Or it can also do the opposite, knock you out.
Yes.
It's like.
Yeah, exactly.
No energy.
No energy. Yeah, because you can't. After that high, you just tank. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a very non-sustainable way of being in terms of if you want to be in your center, if you want to feel like you have more influence in your life, to feel like you're not spinning up in your head, feeling like, okay, I can manage. You know what I mean? Like I can overcome this. I can adapt. If you're spinning forward all the time, you're not even doing anything, and you add on top of that life stresses, it's terrible. It just feels terrible. Not to mention all the physical consequences that I'm sure you can research even more with Dr. Mark Hyman, who's amazing.
Yeah, he is. But you also did the emotional eating program. I mean,
Yes.
that is a fantastic resource.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, if anybody's clueless as to what they mean by food and the effects of it on frequency,
Yeah.
that is the program to buy,
Well, thank you.
I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on.
Okay.
So we've done water and sugar.
Yeah.
What else would you
The
suggest?
third thing, which is going to sound common potentially, but a lot of people don't do it, even though it's common knowledge, it's movement.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people, I mean, our modern lives are very sedentary, right? We sit in front of our computers, we're sitting in our cars, we're just sitting a lot.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, yeah, I know that exercise is important. I mean movement, not necessarily exercise. I mean, if you want to do like a high intensity interval training workout, fantastic.
Yep.
But I mean movement. So you could go for a walk, you could, I mean, whether it's with your dogs or not with your dogs, you could garden, you could, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have
can dance.
You can dance. You don't have to like make it a workout, because I think when people think of movement, they think exercise. I'm like, no, just move your body.
Yeah.
Because your body isn't meant to be stationary. So even if you walk for 20 minutes after you eat, that does a really great job in terms of like burning through carbohydrates, which then can store easily as fat. So if you want to manage your weight, then that would be a good thing to do. But more than anything, from a frequency work perspective, movement is so critical because it brings you into the present moment of linear time, in the center of your body.
Yeah.
It brings you right back. And if you add one more thing, which is my fourth tip, which is to go out to nature.
Yeah.
If you're walking outside, that's better. So if you notice, if you're like having this big problem, right? It's like something's come up in a relationship or at work and you're like, oh my God, how do I get out of this thing? If you pick yourself up, even if it's cold, you bundle up and you go outside and you walk, there's something that happens in that walk.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I can like actually come out of my head. I can feel more centered. I can breathe. I can notice other things like the sky or like the coolness or the heat of the air or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, you start to just sort of enjoy walking. And it's like the problem that was there seems less pressing. I don't know if people have noticed this. It's kind of amazing, actually.
For me, it reduces in intensity.
Yeah.
And it might take me half an hour to get to that place.
Absolutely.
But once I am, it's like, okay, my breathing's back. I haven't got the knot in the stomach. I'm
Yeah.
not up in my head, projecting stories left, right, and center.
Yeah.
I'm actually like, oh, wow, this is actually a nice walk.
Yeah.
Oh, I can feel my body's a little bit tired. You know, because I was sitting in my head for 30 minutes, I didn't notice that I was exercising.
Yeah, exactly.
And suddenly I'm like, whoa, I'm a bit tired. Actually, I've been walking quite a bit.
Yeah. And I've noticed that people don't recognize things like, because they're not in their body, they're not present in their body, aware, they don't notice when they're thirsty.
Yeah.
You know, they don't notice what they're eating.
Yeah.
They don't notice they haven't moved. But when you put yourself into some kind of movement and you come back into the body and present in it, like you said, for you it's 30 minutes, for some of you it's 20, for some of you it's 40, whatever, like whatever your thing is, that is critical for you to be like, wow, okay, I just need a little reset here to feel better in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that would come into, I think we've talked about this, about another part of this. It's like a 3-step for one kind of thing, you know, when you get out in nature by yourself.
Yes.
Being by yourself.
Yes.
And it's also to do with not being surrounded by people that either magnify what's going on in your head.
Yep.
We could call them toxic, but I mean, you know, ultimately it really is about these people just magnify all the distortions that you have, really.
Yeah, totally.
So
Yes.
it's nice to just be and have that time by yourself.
Absolutely.
right?
And that's exactly, to your point. It's number 4. So the being by yourself, it's not about being antisocial. It's about resetting, from my perspective, into your own rhythm of time. You know, to come back into your awareness of being in your body, to just feel yourself in the sense of like, not physically, well, I guess physically in the sense that you are moving in the body, so you're aware of your body, but more like your own sense of like, no, as you say, no other clutter, no other emotional noise from anyone else.
Yes.
So if you take your dogs with you, that's fine, right? Because you're walking the dogs and that you are, and that's fine. But there's something very nourishing to us when we come into our own rhythm. We're not being pressured by anyone else. We're not being obligated. We don't have any expectations on us. We're just in our rhythm, moving in nature. That is a massive reset that it can be really valuable.
Yeah. Okay, wow. These are a lot of tips.
Yeah, it is a lot of tips.
Do you have any more?
Yeah. So what I would say is about the time alone, Fred, I forgot to mention, there's something like we talked about it as if it were a walk, but I want to call it puttering time.
Yeah.
Okay? Because there are studies which have been done where puttering is actually very critical for us to feel nourished.
Yeah.
What do I mean by puttering? That means there's nobody in your space. Okay, so you have kids and a husband and dogs and whatever and whatnot, and you know, perhaps like mom staying with you, whatever. It's like they all go out to wherever for a little while, and you get a couple of hours at home to do what you want.
Yeah.
And again, this at your rhythm. So the key is your rhythm. And so again, like I said, this is a reset of your own sense of time.
Yeah.
So puttering is actually really critical in feeling nourished. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. There's
Nuance.
something in there for me as well about boundaries, you know, because it's like for me, when I am one of them that's got the kids and maybe the visitors, and when they all leave the house, to bake is my thing, because I mean, you can't be getting disturbed every 5 minutes. Like, did I put the baking powder in? Oh my God, I can't remember. Did I put the baking powder in? You know. So when I'm by myself and I have that time to bake and create and manifest magic for me, because you know, I don't eat sugar, so to have that time to make these special recipes, it's a little gift for myself. You know, it's pattern and it's time for me, but it's a gift.
Yeah.
And it's a boundary. Like, that's it. Nobody gets near this moment. This is my moment.
Totally. Yep. I think it's really much more important than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people, when they think of time with themselves, they think of like watching a movie or watching TV.
Yeah.
And my encouragement to you would be to not look at a device. And that's actually the next tip.
Yeah.
Is to give yourself time without your device. I know for us now, we're so addicted to our phones, like time without our device. We're like, oh my God. I'm like, no, seriously, without your device. Do something that doesn't have your device near you, so you're not distracted. You're not being pulled in by other people's emotion. You're not comparing yourself to someone else. You're just being in your own space, not having any demands or distractions placed upon you. So that's what I would say is another thing, is like a time, perhaps when you're puttering, when there's no device.
Yeah. Yeah, because I could hear a lot of people saying, I'm not addicted, I just have to have my phone in it. You know? Do you really?
We used to not have them at all.
You think 30 minutes is that long without a device?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. Yeah, it can be hard.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got all those tips. Do you have any more?
Yeah. So one other tip, which might be unexpected for self-care, is to break your own routine or habit by doing something or going somewhere new. Now, when I say that, people are like, do I have to make a trip to like, you know, some exotic place like Morocco or something like this, or to like London? No.
Well, you kind of feel like
you can, if you like. If you really want to like plan that up for yourself and you go and you do something new, go for it. I think travel is amazing. And what I'll say is it can be just something different in your own home, in the sense that, you know, I don't know, you change something in your house.
Yeah.
You brush your teeth with your left hand instead of your right. Or it could be like you always go to the same 3 restaurants. Today, you're going to bust out and go somewhere new, you know? Or it doesn't have to be, or like, for example, there's been this place that you've always wanted to try. Like, you know, in San Francisco at one point, they opened this place that was all trampolines.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you just like bounce around.
Trampoline park.
A trampoline park. And so we went to that one day. So it wasn't like it was outside of our city. We just like went somewhere different. Yeah. But my point is like, or it's like a new hike or a new route that you take your dogs to walk on.
Yep.
Anything really. Or even like a new recipe or a new, whatever the thing is for you.
Yeah.
But it's really important to do this as a form of self-care. Now you think to yourself, why?
I was just going to say, why is that important?
Yeah. Because from a frequency perspective, the novelty pushes you into the present moment of linear time. If you don't know what you're doing, you have to actually really be paying attention. So the first time that I got on the trampolines, I was like, you know, you think it's self-evident, right? I mean, all you do is you bounce. It's a trampoline. How hard can it be? But actually, you have to pay attention.
You do, because you have the edges of the trampolines.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to like hold your stomach in a certain way so you don't pee yourself from bouncing.
Yep, it's all true.
So all these things were important to learn and to be aware of because it's a new thing. So that's the thing about a new novel thing, is that it forces you to come out of habit, to come out of comfort, into like, with habituation, we are not very present. I don't know if you notice this. We just like if you notice those times when you drive yourself to work and you're just like I don't even know how I got here.
Yeah.
I just got here and I don't even remember what
I
happened.
remember what I passed.
Yeah, exactly. No idea. So my point is, like, if you take a different route to work, you actually have to think a little bit. You have to be more present because this is not your normal routine.
Yeah.
So my point is, if you do something that's novel or different, that takes you out of comfort or habituation, to me, it's a form of self-care because it forces you into the present moment of linear time, which will have you feel more centered, more present in your body, and feel better about yourself.
Yeah, and you can catch yourself when you are changing things around your house. You can catch how habituated you were.
Yeah.
So I think there's a sense of self-awareness in there as well.
Yes.
When you start to change and shift things in your house, just let's start there.
Yeah.
And you go for the pan that's always been in that bottom cupboard, but now it's somewhere else, and you're standing there. Oh, wait. Oh, where's the pan? Oh,
yeah.
And you realize, whoa, I was so habituated.
Yeah.
And then you become aware of, okay, right. Where's that? Okay, right.
Yeah.
Where am I in all that?
Yes, exactly. And the funny thing is, and you and I have talked about this before, when you put yourself into a novel situation and you get lost, for example. So this happened to me just recently because my husband, Chris, luckily for me, is the one who's usually driving. And he was away for a week visiting his family. So I drove myself, which is fine. But I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can't remember how to get to the chiropractor exactly. I think I do, but I'm not really sure. But it forces you to like pay attention to where you are, how you get there. And you're like, oh no, I turned on the wrong street. Dang it. Right? But then you problem solved. So it's almost like you put yourself into positions where you're forcing yourself to adapt. Mm-hmm. And in that adapting, you also realize like, okay, I can get myself out of this.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to come in with that same kind of feed into that story. You see where you are not partaking in your story,
yes.
right? Because like you just pointed out, you were relying on Chris, which is nothing wrong with that. But where else in your life have you been relying on somebody else where really maybe it's you partaking in it that's going to make the big difference?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
These are the things, the gifts that we get when we find out, oh, wow, look how much I've habituated. Or look how much I wasn't actually partaking. I was just leaning on.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an interesting insight to have when you start to reframe, as they call it, reframe your life.
Yeah.
So that you can learn to pivot and create new ways of doing things.
Yes. Yeah. It keeps you nimble, I think.
Yeah.
So I think for the last thing, so this is like action-packed tips here, like chock full of tips that you can take away and do whatever you feel will help you. But I think the very last thing I'd offer up as a tip for self-care, which people don't really think of as self-care, is to be aware of when you're with people who are toxic or who will lower your vibration, or around information that will lower your vibration. Because we're bombarded by both. Okay, so some of the people are around you because they're friends, family, colleagues. Some people are people that are on social media a lot, or on the media, whatever, and there's information, so much information that we're being bombarded with.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel to be around those things, like the information and or the people? And if it doesn't make you feel better, stay away from those things for a little bit so that you can start to recalibrate into yourself and feel better in yourself, because it does impact us.
Yeah. Because right back to what you're saying about your frequency, if it impacts you in a negative way, your frequency drops. Right?
Yes. So if your frequency drops, to me, everything comes down to how high or low your frequency resonance or vibrational level is.
Yeah.
The higher your frequency resonance, first of all, the better you feel.
Yeah.
You'll just feel like more grounded, centered, happier in yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're happier, people around you will be happier.
Yeah.
Because your vibration is higher, you attract more opportunity. You notice more synchronicity and can move forward on them. Things like this start to happen, which I start to call magic, because you're just like, wow, look at what's happening around me. Like collaboration comes in, whatever. There's a whole bunch of stuff that starts to happen, which is amazing. The higher and higher and higher your vibrational level becomes, including how fast you can manifest.
Yeah.
So the more you release your distortion patterns, the higher your frequency resonance will be. And if you don't know what a distortion pattern is, I recommend watching either episode 1 of this podcast or episode 176. That will tell you all about distortions.
Whoa. Okay, well, that's a great big menu for self-care. Yeah. What's the GFC then?
So for those of you who would like to reset to feel a sense of your own timing, then I highly recommend listening to the GFC meditation associated with this episode. And if you've liked this episode, please hit the subscribe button so you can watch more content that is helpful just like this.
We're about to start the Group Frequency Calibration, or GFC, where we actually do the frequency work and where change is catalyzed. To get to the GFC, click on the square that'll appear to the right or the link in the description below. It's time to bring in a new experience, a new consciousness, and a new world. Let's rise together.